back on Professor Chess Videos. I've had a request to show some more Alekhine games, so I've got a couple of really cool Alekhine games I want to show you in his youth to show you how strong he was. This particular one is going to be a Ruy Lopez. He played at Correspondence in 1908 when he was only 16 years old. His opponent was Wygodchikov. I'm just going to call him his opponent because that's difficult to pronounce. Now, they played the Ruy Lopez here. Alekhine's brother had been teaching him chess and playing chess with him, and this will show us how well he absorbed. I mean, his brother did a bang-up job teaching Alekhine how to play chess, didn't he? He imbued the love of the game in him, for sure. So this is all typical Ruy Lopez stuff. Now his opponent with castle, and bishop come to c5, and now the knight takes e5, central pawn attack. His knight responds in kind and takes the knight, and then a beautiful little pawn fork, d4. So if you're not familiar with that in the Ruy Lopez, that's kind of fun. He was given a knight fork, and is he going to take that sitting down? No. He's going to stand up and say, "Aha! I refute you thus. I'll take the e-pawn." Interesting. Now, he took the central pawn. Understand, he left the fork. He is a piece up, so it's okay. Kind of an interesting response there. He goes to rook, e1. So this is beginning to look like Alekhine's in trouble. Not only is there a fork on his pieces, but now the rook obtains the open file with the king across from the rook, and there's two unsupported knights there. And you're going, Alekhine, you better start putting it together. Real interesting. Bishop comes to e7. He keeps his bishop. So his opponent went to rook e1. Alekhine responds by bishop e7, and now it's the rook that takes the knight. So he brings a rook out, but it's really out there vulnerable, kind of early for a rook. Basically, chess fundamentals scream that you ought to put the knights and bishops out first, because the rook most definitely will be a harder target, or an easier target, a more desirable target. That's what I'm trying to say, not a harder target. And so, in a way, that's kind of iffy. So Alekhine bumps his knight back, and he does continue to develop, which is always a good thing. And now Alekhine will castle, which is always a good thing. And now he makes a piece move twice, and he's just not fully developed. Now, of course, Alekhine does not have his reputation yet. This is one of those games, though, that helped build his reputation, but you don't Mickey Mouse around with Alekhine, and this gentleman discovered that. But he really does have a strong center at this point, and so we'll see. Bishop d6, and you go, what a rookie! At this point, Alekhine said, now that the game is even, I'm good. And you go, you never put a bishop in front blocking your pawn. Let's watch how Alekhine operates. And see, this is a psychology moment. If someone had done that to me, I would have thought, oh, well, this is a beginner. And you tend to slack a little bit mentally and all. That's a mistake. Because this isn't permanent at all. But he equalizes the game, and he'll show us why. He'll show us why, which is remarkably interesting. Now, here comes the queen. Interesting. A queen, a rook, a central pawn, a knight, and a bishop out. But observe something. Little bit sloppy. That's a completely unprotected piece. And so is the knight unprotected. Just keep in mind the undefended, unprotected, undefended. And now the move of moves that everyone's going to do a facepalm with in the opening. What does our young hero do? F5! No, you think I'm kidding, right? No, I'm serious. He pushed F5. It's not against a knight, it's against a rook. Oh, I'll bet that's my wife calling from the hospital. Hang on, I'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. The tests in the hospital went really well, and I'm really excited. So, pull up a chair, grab your drink, get yourself a bowl of popcorn. Yeah, baby. Only on the Backyard Professor Chess channel will you see the instructor enjoy himself so much and eat popcorn with his audience while he gives you instructional chess of Alexander Alekhine. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there, man. Hey, I'm going to tell you a secret about what makes popcorn better. Pepper. True story, I know, it's kind of weird, but pepper. Not just salt, but pepper. I don't salt my popcorn, but I do pepper. And it's good. So, I'm going to try to instruct you with a mouthful of popcorn, because what better way to enjoy chess than pull up a chair, grab your drink, get some popcorn, and watch a good video. Okay. This is going to be difficult, right? He bumped F5. Whoa. Wow. But there's a purpose, because it is hitting a rook. I don't know if he would do that if this was a knight, but with a rook, the temptation is too great, and of course his opponent sees it. And he immediately puts the bishop right there. He says, oh yeah, oh yeah. He got that move in with tempo, right? Yeah, yeah. So, king goes to h8. Not a move he wanted to do, but a move he had to do. And now, rook drops back to e2, but look who has the open file. And you know what I've said about open files. And Alekhine was very good with open files. Yeah. So let's see what happens here. This is going to be a really good game. Alekhine proceeds to push forward his pawn, because the nice thing about the f-pawn, even though it is in the opening, and I know Feingold and others say forget about it, don't do that, but this is Alekhine doing so. He's got the rook behind him. He's also got an opening for his queen and his bishop and his knights over here. So he is prepping C in a way, but rather than the H-pawn going all the way up like Bobby Fischer loved to do. In this particular instance, Alekhine pushed the F as far as he could go. Yeah, so he's declaring his attack. He's going to attack. So this will be fun to see. And on the queen side now, recognize, okay, he's pulling the gun on the king side. Let's get going on the queen side. That's been a very common theme in so many Grandmaster games, yes? Who gets to the other guy first? Grab a handful of popcorn. We're getting into the good part of the game. You're going to love this. So, and now, Alekhine is not, well, yeah, c6. He goes from here to here, here to here, here to here. Alekhine loved to play the whole board, both sides, and the center. And so we'll see what happens. There it is. Yeah. c5. The counter attack, the counter play from a kingside attack is queenside, and it looks like his opponent does have some counterplay here, right? So what happens? Bishop b8. True, the bishop has retreated as far down the board as he can. However, he still has that magnificent diagonal. And notice that once his pawn starts going up, his other bishop will have a diagonal too. So, yeah, it's not ideal, but it's not locked in. And it's not shut in by white's pawn structure. It can't be. So you can't say that's a bad bishop or a lousy place to put it. And he'll demonstrate that. And that, he bumped on the knight. Now watch this very nice fork on the bishop and the rook, huh? So his opponent is not playing stupid chess. A good outpost. You can see because he puts the pawns that these squares are weak. The color complex, the green squares, are weak. Now watch what the young 16-year-old Alekhine starts to do. It's time for another handful of popcorn because this is exciting. We're in the middle of it, baby. Yeah. Oh, that's what I'm talking about, man. D5? Yeah, D5. It's a rook sacrifice. What Alekhine said in his notes to this game is that the rook sacrifice is fully justified because he saw far enough into the future using his great spiritual divination, using his chess calculation. He saw further than his opponent that his attack was going to be very, very strong, and his opponent did not realize the danger he was in. His opponent's off here fooling around on the queen side, and Alekhine's letting him. He's saying, sure, you want to fool around? Have at it. Take a rook. I don't need it. And I'm truly serious. He basically said that in his notes. I'm ad-libbing the words, but that's what Alekhine said. He more or less said he had no idea what great danger his king was in. And you know how I talk about reading the chessboard, right? What danger? There's nothing even near the white king. This, to me, looks like white has all of the options. Isn't that incredible? You know, reading the chess position, Alekhine knew one thing that on a superficial look we don't get. But his mind was so advanced, even at age 16, he saw this entire field completely open and funneling toward the king side. We don't. If we did not know who the players were, this is so interesting because it's almost deceptive. It almost goes against the principle here of read the board and do what it dictates. Because if we did not know who the players were here, we would want the white position, wouldn't we? Oh, black is so undeveloped. Look, everything's on the first rank. He's been asleep. Look at the development power of white. White's overwhelming and dominating black. And he's got a target, too. And he's got another target. This is genuinely interesting. I promise, this is going to shock you. In fact, it's so awesome that I'm going to have another mouthful of popcorn right on camera. Woohoo! Teacher not supposed to eat with the student, but nowhere else in chess YouTube land does the instructor participate so fully with his associates, right? All right. Not healthy rough. Yeah. What I was saying was, knight takes the rook, and now we can see how Alekhine foresaw far further than his opponent. This is spectacular. First up, knight h4. And you go, well, yeah, that's a pretty blunt announcement that here I come. And there could be potential issues here, yeah, but let's wait and see, because white still looks way better. Observe the act and the reaction, chasing away a defender. Who has the initiative? Just asking. This is what Alekhine became master of, and we're going to observe it as early as 16. F3. And you go, it's just a pawn! It's a lot more than a pawn. Remember, we want to read the whole board. Right? Where is his space? Kingside. Where are his pieces pointing to? Kingside. Where are white's pieces? Queenside. Let's keep watching. True story. Centralization of the rook when you attack on a wing. The correct response is centralization. White is dominating the center. He is obviously winning. And at the point here, it does look that way. So white's not playing lousy chess here. It's just that black saw further. Bishop takes e5. D takes e5. Has white lost the exchange? Yes. Was it unreasonable? Or was it a rook sacrifice to get rid of one of the attackers? Okay, so there's a two-edged way to look at this, right? You say nobody would ever just throw a rook up there and lose the exchange. It happens all the time, so we have to look at the chessboard and ask ourselves, was that a blunder, or was that getting rid of an attacking piece? You decide. Very interesting, isn't it? Knight takes g2. Oh, wow. It is time for another handful of popcorn with the Backyard Professor during his chess video making tour here. All right, grab some popcorn. Grab some popcorn. We're going to do it. Queen comes to d4. Again, centralization. I can't overemphasize that. He's not playing lousy. It's that Alekhine is playing so much better. But he's not, his opponent is not committing cardinal sins here. He is accurately doing this. Just to let you know. Right? Queen to d7. Oh my gosh. The Queen Bishop battery. It is time for another handful of popcorn, because this is ramping up. Here's to Alekhine. Well, we're going to have a lot of fun when the book like this works, because the instruction is really good, so you can see how long he played this. Did you get all that? I knew you would. Yeah. E6. Doesn't help him. Queen simply takes E6. Bishop to D2. Time to get your bishop off the back rank and bring this rook in here. At least defend this back rank and bring him up and in for some defense, because it's obviously in just a couple short moves, Black has already demonstrated, oh yeah, I mean, I'm attacking you. Just a couple of moves ago, we would have picked White's side. Now look, the dramatic difference here is electrifying in just a couple of moves. This is worth playing through several times until you get the idea, isn't it? Yeah, this kind of game is spectacular. So queen took e6, bishop d2, and now queen g6. And if you were playing white, you would have had to at least go, better take a second look here, because it looks like it's going to get thick. Oh, heavens, yes. Heavens, yes. Bishop c2. Get rid of that queen. As much as you can, get rid of the queen. And Alekhine spurns it. He says, oh, you idiot. You did that wrong. I'm just going to take your bishop. Thanks for the bishop. So his opponent realizes, holy cow, here he comes. And then he comes right back to g6 because it supports the knight. That supports the knight. The rook is behind the pawn. The bishop is able to come over. White is in deep trouble, man. And it's time for another hand of popcorn, because the fireworks begin now. And everybody loves to have popcorn during fireworks, whether it's 4th of July, which is coming up, or chess games, right? So, popcorn, and let's see what we can get through here, because this is a fabulous game. This is really good. Rook A to G1, yeah. That's correct. That's a good response. And now, of course, Bishop H3. Amazing how fast it can happen. That's what I wanted you to notice is, holy cow, blink your eye and you're had. Right? So here we go. Knight finally decides, you know, yeah, I got the rook, but it just took a piece out. A defensive piece that I really needed in this game. I'd better hurry up and hot foot it. He is so late with that, it's not going to make any difference. Brilliant of Alekhine to just let his rook go, because it left a defending piece off, because he knew he had a setup for attack, and without an extra defending piece, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, and his opponent only has 3 defense pieces. In other words, Alekhine has a chance to win here. Actually, I lied. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The pawn is involved, so 5 to 3. My money is now on black, yeah. See how that works? That's real interesting, isn't it? And knight f4. And you go, no! What are you thinking? Now it is time for a huge hand of popcorn while I ponder this, because that's a disaster. Black, you just threw the game away. If the one thing that pisses me off is when it's for a game away, because you're from the winner, what? Because the one's gonna hurt, and you have a chance to get it right. And now you're trying to put the game. So, the rook just takes the queen. And you go, holy cow, dude, really? You muffed it. And Alekhine says, never fear, it's a queen sacrifice. And you go, wait, a rook sacrifice and a queen sacrifice in one game? And Alekhine goes, oh, you don't understand. You ain't seen nothing yet. Bishop G2 check. And you go, well, all right, rook take G2. Talk about losing your entire attacking force. Let's keep watching. F takes G2 check. King G1. Knight E2 check. King takes G2. Knight takes queen. And Alekhine had calculated it so that he was up material and he gave away a rook and a queen, but in his endgame he has more pawns and he has better pieces. Now that's worth taking a victory mouthful of popcorn, because that is astonishing. It is here where white resigned. And that's to say that when you Alekhine ready to read them well, otherwise you wouldn't possibly do that unless you had the skill to do so. And that's a fact. So, thanks for having popcorn and drinks with me while we all play a good game of chess of Alekhine. I have another game of Alekhine I'll show you in this video. Hang on and I'll be right back. Okay, let's see this second Alexander Alekhine game. And here he is playing the white pieces. And I really like this game because he played this one, I believe, 4 years later, so he was 20. I believe he was 20. He was either late 19 or 20 when he played this game. And this was against, he's actually going to do the King's Gambit. He called it the Bishop's Gambit. He's playing Levitsky, and this was in some kind of a tournament back then when he was really young. And so, let's see how he plays the King Gambit here. And then he goes Bishop C4, and then the knight will go F6. And now he goes Knight C3, and this gentleman will go Bishop 4, hitting the knight, and then he will have his own Rock of Gibraltar, as I did that previous video I showed you. Those two knights in that combination are excellent. That's an excellent way to have knights anywhere on the board because they're just self-sustaining. It's kind of like a bishop and a pawn. Like that. That unit is self-sustaining if there's no pawns to come up and challenge the unit. So this is a strong maneuver. And it's a strong setup. And he does hit right at the center. He's got 1, 2 defenders. He's got 1, 2, 3 attackers, however. I'm just showing you because that makes sense. If your opponent only has 2 defending and you have 3 attacking, you will win the exchange. And so Alekhine takes the pawn. Yeah, he'll win that pawn. And then he goes F3. Now he is attempting to disrupt the pawn structure of Alekhine, and Alekhine mentions that in his notes. The interesting thing is, and one of the reasons I wanted to show this game, we don't have to let it disturb us that our pawn structure is goofed up, and by the way, it is. I mean, That's ugly. A pawn all by himself there, a pawn all by himself there, and doubled pawns in the center. That's ugly. What's that corny saying that we've all heard, but it really is true? When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Yeah. So Alekhine mentions in his notes, this does disrupt my position, so I'm going to make a virtue of this. I'm going to use this in this game. And watch how he focuses all of his energy and coordination around the ugly duckling to turn it into a beautiful swan. It's really impressive. I thought, wow, yeah, for a 20-year-old to have that kind of approach is really spectacular. So let's watch this. This is really fun. And it's not that his opponent plays bad. It is not because his opponent plays bad. It is because Alekhine makes a virtue of necessity. Yeah? So the doubled central pawns, true, as a rule, doubled pawns are a weakness. However, look at the function that they're doing right now. This is not technically weak unless they can be blockaded and then attacked as targets. But look at the squares that they are controlling in the center. And you've got a backup, and you've got a backup, and you've got a backup, and you've got a backup. So, doubled pawns, but you can't call those weak. Does that make sense? Truly. So, where am I? Bishop h3. Now, this makes sense because, and I know, general rule, knights before bishops. See, here in this instance, we see that rule being broken in an opening. He created an extremely weak half of Alekhine's entire army, and it appears that Alekhine is moving everybody over here, and so it makes sense that he's going to focus on the weak squares and the weak pawns to make them targets as he can, because that's what he created. We understand then that a plan for black is to come over into this area and fight. Really, that's just sensible. Let's watch Alekhine. He's not going to let that knight pop up into there just yet. He's going to pin it to the queen. It is a relative pin, that's true, but it's a tough enough one that the knight's not going to move. Does that make sense? So, this is a move with tempo, we understand, because it does develop a piece, and it helps prevent black from pursuing his goal with that knight to get it down into this weak area and wreak havoc. So that's a move with tempo. In other words, Alekhine gains time here at the same time developing, which is exceedingly good to do in our games. So, nice move. Bishop g2. Target! I mean, look, you've got weaknesses all over the place. The rook is undefended. Target that rook. That's good chess. Yeah. Rook g1. Target! Okay, turn the tables on him. That's an undefended bishop, and it's a lone bishop, and it's only a one-piece attack, right? Wrong. Hold on. Before we get too hasty in our judgment here, let's take a look. The point of that bishop excursion was to further weaken this end. He did so by removing the f3 pawn, which was all by itself single, so it was a weakness. It had weak squares around it, and so it was a weakness, and so it was a target. So he has further accomplished his goal using at least the bishop of weakening that end on Aлекhine's position. So it's not a one-piece attack. It is attacking a weakness, however, and making Aлекhine's position on this side even worse. You guys, that's good chess. That's good chess. So, gently, without a lot of excitement, Alekhine is going to slowly strengthen what is left of his position. He doesn't let this blow him out of the water psychologically like a lot of us would do. Namely myself. Right? I have to learn to calm down and quit freaking out in these kind of positions. Because right now, I would be pulling my hair out. I would be screaming and yelling, jumping up and down, saying I hate how I play chess, and so on and so forth. This is a great lesson to just say, look, just, whoa, take it easy, and steadily, with small pieces, small steps, build your position. Okay? Let's see how it's done. Queen d2, and now bishop e7. Okay, now, you came here to put the pin on the knight, yes? Well, okay, the queen is inserted between the queen and king. So you can't disrupt the castling. You can get rid of the knight, but the question is, you don't want to just willy-nilly trade to trade. You don't want to be superfluous here because it does provide an imbalance. And here's the issue, so far as I understand it, which may not be extremely good. However, my understanding is the board is and is going to continue to be rather open. The pawns are not locked in the middle. The pawns are not locked anywhere on either wing. There's a lot of space to maneuver, etc. So would you want to give up your bishop pair in a more or less open board? Not necessarily, because bishops are better in open spaces. So, once again, understanding that imbalance, like we do thanks to Jeremy Silman, this move makes fantastically excellent sense because he shifts it. Now look, Alekhine here is just dominating. All of his pieces are fundamentally beautifully coordinated here. So, shift over to here where he's weakest. Perfect sense. So that move then makes real good sense. True, he's not fully developed, and true, he is moving a piece twice. I understand all that. The board itself says you're not going to hurt yourself moving that bishop back there and getting onto this side and finding more targets. And the point being, push a pawn and promote it. Eventually, once you clear this area out. Now, you can't ignore everything over here, but that is where black should play, yes. Sincerely, that makes sense. I'm probably overdoing this, I'm belaboring it, but it's really important to understand this. Alekhine castles long, and now here comes the fun. Yeah, now we see Alekhine work. And that castle makes perfect sense. One, because he already moved his rook. Even if he hadn't, you would, and yeah, I know, you can't castle through check and all that noise. You wouldn't want to castle on this side with it wide open. So what's that tell you, you guys? We know where the game is going to be played. Black is going to attack the weak. White is going to defend the weak side. It's all going to be over there. Does that make sense? Seriously? This board says everyone over there. Which then shows you White's plan. White's plan will be a kingside attack. Black's plan, now here's somewhat of an anomaly. Black's plan is also going to be attack the kingside. Black isn't going to necessarily go for checkmating the king to win. There is so much weakness over here. Black's just going to slaughter this side and bump upon him. So it's kingside play, both players. That makes sense? By reading the board. And you say, no, when he castles kingside and you castle queenside, then you go attack his kingside and he attacks your queenside. As a general rule, yeah, but look, this is pure dominant. What's to attack there? You don't have any talk. Maybe even that's covered though. That's pure dominant. You're not. That's granite. Over here is sand. Go play in the sandbox. In this instance, the idea, yes, you go over there and he'll come over here, is backwards. You're both going to go over there. Always anomalies in chess and always exceptions to the rules and ideas. You have to let the board dictate, as Jeremy Silman said in his fabulous book for beginners, The Amateur's Mind. So here we go. Now, bishop comes stage 5. It is at this point that Alekhine said, okay, now I'm ready to attack. Alekhine's white, and he's saying, okay, now I'm ready to attack. Yeah? Well, let's see what he means, because I'm not kidding. That king is not just by himself, is he? No. Look, he's got a lot of help over there. And now Alekhine is saying, I'm going to attack. So this will get interesting. It's really interesting. So, rook d to e1. Now look, it's logical. You got a semi-open file straight across from the king. Put your rook across from the king. I've talked about this alignment issue before. It's always a good idea to put your rook across from your opponent's king. That there is something in between the rook and the king for the moment should not dissuade you from doing this. That is a great setup. What does Alekhine do with his other rook? Put it in a file. Just sensible. See, you don't have to guess, well, what is my next piece I'm going to move, and where am I going to move it? Would this have been any lesser a quality of move? Not very much, if at all, because again, now this is a partial open file. There is a black pawn on it, but look at the power there also. It is still a lane toward the black king side. And Alekhine has announced, now I'm ready to attack. So it doesn't matter, you can't go wrong. But leaving your rook here can't possibly help you. In this sense, these two pawns are a hindrance. And you say, wait a minute, you just said an alignment problem. A rook across from a queen and a king. True, but Alekhine said he's going to attack. So, that move makes sense. I'm overdoing the elaboration, but let's go step by step, because when we understand the logistics of a kingside attack, it's one of the most beautiful things to recognize in chess. And this is a dilly of an attack. So this is great. So, okay, here come the troops. The development is on. Here come the pieces. The attack is on. Recognize where Alekhine is attacking from. His weak side. This is going to be extremely interesting. Bishop, support. Don't fool yourself. that bishop is a strong defender. Now this is so Fischer-like, isn't it? You remember one of the previous videos, 3 or 4 videos back, I was saying one of the cool ways to attack is throw the pawns up and back the pawns up with pieces. Make sure the pieces are behind to support the pawns. There are no pawns. So Alekhine is attacking with the pieces, and he's going to use that little pawn as the trigger. Or rather, better yet, even the bullet. That's even a better analogy. He's fired the gun, here comes the bullet. This is so cool how he does this. Really reminds us of Bobby Fischer. So you got to give yourself room to maneuver both the king and other pieces that may need to get in there. So rook e8, that makes sense. And now queen g2, and you're going, obvious. They're really, you're not lost as to what you're going to do next. It looks confusing, and it's starting to mix. And so you're going, well, let's see. Okay, no, white controls this square, and the knight there, and the knight there, and the knight there. And let's see, my bishop's here and here. And let's see, his knight is hitting my bishop, but it's also going there, threatening my queen. You want to be cognizant of what the pieces are influencing, but don't overwhelm yourself and say, I don't know which piece to move. I don't know what to do. What's better? Look, there's a knight and a rook that I can attack. What do I do next? Do I attack these lone pawns that look unsupported? Should I come this way or whatever? He has the file across from the king. He has another open file. Why not double the strength? Because you've already invested your knight move up to this side. That looks scary if you're black. It makes sense that he did that, is what I'm trying to say. You don't have to get so overwhelmed with so many different options. Do the strongest one. You're in the file. You're against the king, double it, and go, man, go. Right? So this makes sense. So it's fun. And see, I told you, the rook moves over so that now the bishop can come to f8 supporting that. Now, look, his rook move makes sense because this bishop controls these 2 squares. Nice. That's why that bishop is a strong defender, you guys. The knight helps the bishop support the h square. So that's nice. But black sees that this pawn is coming up to here that's going to hit this, and I have a double queen and rook opposing my king. There's going to be the pawn they're going to hit, and he's going to hit it 3 ways, possibly 4 ways. So it makes sense now, moving the rook, to put the bishop right there. Black's not lost as what move to do either, because now he supports the pawn that he knows is going to get really pressured. So black's play is making sense. Okay? I'm trying to give an anatomical discussion here. And here comes the bullet. H5. Yeah, this is so Bobby Fischerish. Before Fischer was a Twinkie in his mama's eyes. So this is good. H5. Okay, now bishop F5. The bishop moves out of the way. He isn't done defending, however. He hasn't been taken. It doesn't weaken the bishop. What it does weaken, though, is this pawn. Because the only piece now supporting that's the king. Did you notice that? Every move will either strengthen or weaken either a piece, a pawn, or a square. And the real good grandmasters see all of that. You and I are still practicing to be able to see more of that, right? But just be aware that because here comes this bullet, beautiful strategy. He's got all of his pieces, and he's going to use the pawn as the battering ram. Now, It's only here and the king. Amazing, you have all this power surrounding this, and only the king is supporting that pawn. I'm just helping you sharpen your eye a little bit here, right? So, and now, that is poetry. That is poetry in motion. You non-chess players are not going to understand me. That is an exquisite song. That move is spectacular. That move is beautiful. It's on an outpost on the weak, doubled pawns, a fantastic outpost, hitting the queen, the bishop, and who did I just point to? Yeah. I said he could go here and hit it, which he could, but once he bumps the pawn, now he can go here and hit it. You say, yeah, but it's protected. That's right. But it's protected. That's right. But what he's doing is he is unraveling the kingside defense. What a fantastic move. It's a knight sacrifice. Now this changes the character of the strength of the defense around that black king, because now he's moved here. That square is vulnerable. The square can become a target. Not just a piece, but a square. So let's keep watching. This really, really gets cool. D takes e6. A little pawn can control a key square. Just a little pawn can control a key square that are connected surrounding the king. Be careful, there's a weaving net. They're coming on, and he knows it, so he goes king h8. Notice what's backing up this pawn, the rook. Notice the file he selected. It was a partial file, and there was some clutter in between. Now look at it. And notice what else is starting to clear out? The other file where Alekhine has doubled. There's only one piece there now of blacks. There used to be a powerful bishop here, but he's not there anymore. You see how the changing dynamic functions here. It's real fun to see the anatomy and how it works in a kingside attack like this. E takes d7. A defensive piece eliminated. Rook takes e1 check. It was also a discovered attack on the guy's rook. So rook takes the rook. No more check, which is all according to plan. And bishop will drop back and take d7, a very powerful pawn that was forcing the queen to stay there by the bishop taking the pawn. Now the queen can get involved in defense. There is no worry in black about attacking white's king. He has to defend for his life or he's done. Yeah. Here comes that bullet, still projecting forward, creating weaknesses. He chased the bishop off, created weaknesses. The bishop's now way over here. There's not a pawn there or a bishop there. There's gapping holes, and it's still coming on, creating more weaknesses. This is a fantastic attack. This is really fun to see. Bishop c6, hitting the queen. Alekhine puts the pawn there, and he says, well, all right, I'll leave your little lady alone, right? Rook comes back over to f1. There's a target that is hit twice. It is defended twice, but he's at least contacting through the file a target. Let's see what happens. b5, he's hitting a target. And no. Wait a minute. Don't mess this up. Rook f1, b5. Yeah, bishop b3. Yeah, that's what he did. Alekhine has no reason to give up this fantastic diagonal toward the king, you notice it's a two-way thrust from a distance. So this would be okay, but this keeps the king right in that corner. And you say, well, his own pawn's in the way. That's irrelevant. He can move the pawn. That pawn's not going to be blockaded anytime soon. So this is why he kept that diagonal. And then queen is trying to get possibly up into here to fight off the enemies, but at least he's moving the correct direction. He does have a diagonal, and he does have a file to operate on now, so the queen is trying to get involved as good as she can. And now here comes, we've seen one very beautiful, powerful projectile more or less take away the defenders of the king and put pressure on the one pawn that I said earlier had an enormous amount of pressure, and it's why black put the bishop there, and it still does have an enormous amount of pressure. Now we see the other projectile coming, and he keeps projecting forward. And rook takes knight here also works. He says, had black done this, no. You keep that bishop right there. So black goes to knight h5. And in this position, there is a spectacular move that Alekhine does. Can you see it? It's what caused black to resign. And I pointed to the piece many times. Alekhine did not give up this diagonal for a reason. He's supported. This bishop is supported. The pawn is supported by the bishop. You don't dare take that pawn. And it's there that he resigned. And I'll let you work out the reason why. It's really cool. And that is quite the end game position, I'll tell you what. That is black being tied up in knots. So anyway, there are two really nifty Alexander Alekhine games for you. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember, be safe, do well, have fun, be good, make lots of money, get lots of good sleep, eat healthy, be friendly neighbors. The world needs a little bit more love in the world instead of so much division and hate. And I know we are in politically turmoil times, and we are in socially turmoil times, but remember sincerely, this isn't just a slogan now, but we're all in this together, you know, we're all human beings. Let's try to show love and support and respect for all of our fellow human beings, and in the meantime, I will catch you in the next Backyard Professor Chess video.